Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads out there? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Hopefully you're all smoking big fat doinks as those viper sounds make. Mrs. Weedman?
Hello, Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Fantastic. I really am.
That's awesome to hear.
Nothing to complain about.
I hope everybody in the world is doing well amongst all this craziness that's going on out there still. Peace, love, and happiness. Peace be with you all. Love you all out there. Mrs. Weeman, we got some funny stories that happened this weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
What did we do?
Well, on Saturday, we finally have bonfire weather. Not that I don't know that I'm completely happy about that because then we're closer to winter, but I do like fall. And so we are finally starting to get some fall weather. So we decided to have a bonfire on Saturday night and did some yard work before that and cooked some dinner. And we decided to cook our side dishes with cannabutter.
Oh.
So it was ghee. I'm right now doing a dairy-free diet. Don't ask me why. Yeah. It's absolutely...
We've had no pizza!
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. And you just don't even realize, like, it dairy's just in everything. I miss so many foods. I will be back, dairy. So anyway, I decided we had a can of butter in the fridge that was made with ghee and coconut oil. So I roasted little potatoes and some green beans and a sweet onion with some seasonings. And oh my Lord. So by the time everyone came over for the bonfire, Mr. Weedman and I were feeling nothing.
Oh, so good.
It was actually a really pleasant high. It wasn't super heady.
Full body, like energetic, silly. And so my sister came by and I offered her some potatoes. I was like, hey, want some potatoes? She's like, okay, potatoes and beer. All right. So she had a little side dish, and she too was feeling no pain. My cheeks were like,
my God, we were
feeling.
cracking
They were
up.
like, at one point my cheeks felt like they were numb and tingly when it first started kicking in. It felt so nice, and then I just remember at one point we're watching the fire, and I turned and look at you and your sister, and you guys were in hysterics.
We had other friends over too, but they didn't eat any of the potatoes.
No,
silly
nobody was
people.
on our level.
They were silly. So we had a good old time.
Yeah, we did.
So.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I like cooking like that. Dishes and just like on a Saturday or a Friday where you can cook a nice dish and you throw some canna butter in there. It's just it is a banging, relaxing high, especially when you're outside.
It was fast too. It didn't, like a normal edible takes much longer to kick in.
Yeah,
maybe because this was with like a high protein, high fat meal. Like we had grilled a pork tenderloin. And then the butter, I think, is what really helps.
We did dip a
in.
lot of bread into the butter.
Oh my God, yeah. we were slopping up every bit of that butter that we could. It was really good. So it was quite pleasant. Have no idea how many milligrams of THC we consumed.
Yes, we were pretty high.
Yeah,
and then smoking Majin Fajita around the fire too was pretty good.
That was later, yeah.
Yeah,
It took a
later.
while before I needed anything.
Yeah, you were banging for a while.
It was funny.
Yep.
Quite funny.
You ready to start the show?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
September is Suicide Prevention Month. It's the last week of it, so let's make sure, and we don't forget it at all, but just make sure that if you know someone or someone is struggling, they can reach out. They're here for you at 24/7, 365 days of the year at 1-800-273-8255 or talk. It's also Hispanic Heritage Month.
It is.
And Mrs. Weeman has a great, great person to talk about that's in the cannabis industry. Take it away, Mrs. Weeman.
Sure. Before we go there, though, also NAMI has a free text line. So if you don't want to have to get on the phone and talk with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is the number that Mr. Weedman just gave, you can also text NAMI, which is the National Association of Mental Illness, at 741-741, and they will connect you to a free trained crisis counselor.
Wow, that's
So
awesome.
There are resources out there. So please.
Oh wait,
use
before
them.
we
Yes.
start reading.
Oh.
We need to
We gotta
smoke.
smoke.
We got smoke.
We almost forgot.
Almost forgot.
That's silly. Do you have something to talk about while I smoke?
I always have something to talk about.
What am I smoking?
We're smoking an older strain that I grew. It's actually a strain that we've had for about a year now. It's been in the jars. There's 2 nugs left, and like I said, I wanted to see how some of these developed. So I held some strains, and this is the Berry White, which we smoked last night.
Oh, I like Berry White.
And we were so mellow, so relaxed. I slept like a rock. So this is a good strain. I believe I have some more seeds still from that, from a friend of mine. I think I have like 8 more seeds left of that. So maybe it'll come around again. I'm going to hit this bowl, you all.
It's tasty.
Yeah, it did taste like berry last night.
Oh, boy. Wow. So I'm also drinking oh, my Lord, Topo Chico. They're hard seltzers. They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're not bad. Oh, wow.
All right.
Big ripper.
Oh,
Take it away,
let's
Mrs.
get
Wee
started
Bit.
here. In honor of
Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yes, Hispanic Heritage Month. We have an article here about Susie Placencia, and she is making bold moves. Bold Latina magazine last reported on several Latinas in cannabis who have created a space within the highly lucrative yet still young legal cannabis market. This is a feat worth not only mentioning but championing. According to Marijuana Daily Business, Hispanics and African Americans together accounted for only 10% of cannabis founders and owners, compared to 81% of white entrepreneurs. That needs to change. Which is why Susie Placencia and her ongoing fight and boycott of a canna brand sparked us to learn more about this bold Latina in cannabis entrepreneurship and activism. Susie embodied everything we deem a bold Latina. She, along with colleagues, exposed the shameless appropriation of Mexican culture by a white-owned canna brand. Placencia is a Mexican-American entrepreneur, cannabis activist, and journalist. Born and raised in L.A., Placencia's passion for storytelling has fueled her professional career, and she takes pride in making a meaningful impact for clients in cannabis and adjacent industries with her PR-driven social media agency, Night Shift Cannabis. As a business and culture journalist to boot, Placencia pursues stories that provide representation for marginalized people, their culture, and their communities. Earlier this year, Placencia was named by Mary Jane Magazine, which is Snoop Dogg's media venture, as one of the cannabis industry's hottest power players. Placencia is making a name for herself in the cannabis industry, not just as an activist, but entrepreneur. Now with a cannabis direct-to-consumer brand, Moda Glass, which she co-founded during the pandemic in late 2020. The Bong brand even made LA Taco's 2020 holiday gift guide, which now everybody, don't you want to know what the LA Taco gift guide is?
Yeah.
Sounds like a big deal. I'm going to look for that. Moda Glass has become a minority and veteran-owned Bong brand with the intent of addressing 2 main issues in the functional glass industry: the mass importing of glass from overseas, devaluing local artisans, and exploitation of the minority workforce. Providing independent glassmaker jobs and the ability to earn in a multi-billion-dollar industry is the definition of a social impact business model. Moda Glass stands for Minorities for Opportunity, Transparency, and Accountability in Cannabis. The grassroots organization was founded by Susie on the heels of the La Chingona boycott, a campaign she led that exposed the shameless appropriation of Mexican culture by white-owned canna brand La Chingona Cannabis. The movement garnered widespread industry acclaim and landed her on the cover of LA Times in September of 2020. We're thrilled to see what Susie does next. In fact, check out her newest photo series connecting Mexican culture and cannabis at 420 Katrina on Instagram.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You know what I liked about that article, besides watching someone start a young woman starting and getting in the industry young and starting a business, was she did it during COVID.
Yeah.
She pivoted. We've talked about this on a prior episode. She pivoted and took every opportunity she can get and started her own company. And she's gotten written up in the LA Times, Mary Jane by Snoop Dogg's magazine. I mean, she's become one of the hottest power players. That's
pretty cool.
That's badass. Badass. Really good. So it's my turn. Now I know how you feel after I read a few articles when the high kicks in.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I gotta go.
I have to read words right now? Really?
We'll see how well I do. Going smokeless, consuming cannabis without combustion. We've been talking a lot about smoking and stuff like that. Some people can't smoke straight flower out of a bong, out of a joint. They might have issues with their lungs. They might have issues just with the mild carcinogens from the smoke. So it's just a thing. So trying to learn more about how to go beyond smoking and take cannabis in different ways. So this talks a little bit. We've talked about vapors before, so I'm going to go into this though because it also talks about other ways too for people out there that cannot just go out and smoke a joint. So medical cannabis in the modern day, a diversity of choices beyond flower. Visiting a cannabis dispensary can be an overwhelming experience, but in a good way. Patients are often amazed as how many options there are to choose from. Long gone are the days of your local dealer having one purported sativa and one indica strain of flower with the occasional pot brownie for sale. Today, patients can choose from a multitude of options, including a wide variety of confections and edibles, vape pens, concentrates, even transdermal patches. While each formulation has its own advantages and disadvantages, many patients find combination therapy to be the most effective and use different products to help meet their treatment and needs. This article will examine some of the many options available to medical cannabis patients today. Let me take a sip of my Topo Chico. Vaporization, dry flower, lower heat, and flavor vapor. Limited. So the first method of smokeless cannabis consumption to discuss is simply using a dry herb vaporizer to create a smokeless vapor from the buds that contain the cannabinoids and terpenoids from the flower, which can then be consumed as just one would smoke, but without the tar and toxins that come with smoking just about anything. A recent 2016 study discusses the benefits of therapeutic cannabis by stating it could be an efficient route for cannabinoids administration because less concentrated cannabinoids-enriched liquid refills are required. However, it is important to note that the entire cannabinoid profile generally cannot be released into the vapor at once. Different cannabinoids are released into the vapor at different temperatures. CBN. We've talked about its hot new cannabinoid right now, good for sleep aid. A cannabinoid responsible for sedative effects. Cannabis requires around the temperature between 160 to 180 degrees. However, many other cannabinoids, including THC, would degrade at those temperatures. Therefore, while this method of consumption greatly reduces the stress on one's lungs compared to smoking, the full cannabinoid profile cannot be obtained by the mechanism of delivery. Hashology. Hashish sets precedent for cannabis concentrate evolution. The earliest form of cannabis concentrate is known as hashish, or hash. In cultivating and harvesting cannabis plants, large amounts of trichromes, crystalline structures containing cannabinoids and terpenoids, also known as keef, would get stuck in the worker's fingers. After sufficient accumulation, the keef could be rolled up into bricks or balls to consume by smoking at that time. While smoking hash is outside the scope of this article, it is important to note that early hash set the precedent for a wide range of cannabis concentrates that can be consumed via vaporization today. Vaporization, dabbing cannabis concentrates. While hashish, also known as charas in India, were the concentrates of the olden days, modern-day cannabis extracts and concentrates have made incredible progress. Concentrates generally have a wide variety of names that generally speak to its consistency and are often determined after the extraction process. To complete common terms are butter, shatter, wax, live resin, live wax, and sugar, which we just talked about the last couple of episodes. So you should be now familiar with some of this verbiage if you're a newbie. The term live refers to flash freezing flower and retaining the maximum amount of cannabis-derived terpenes for a delicious flavor, taste, and wholesome nuanced effect, which we've talked about that on the prior episode. From one-dimensional to full spectrum, the evolution of concentrates. It's interesting to note that early concentrates simply extracted high amounts of THC and perhaps small amounts of other cannabinoids, thus creating a very one-dimensional high, a psychoactive effect lacking the subtitles and nuance of flower. Today, with the technology available to us, this couldn't be further from the truth. By retaining a wide spectrum of original cannabis-derived terpenes and cannabinoids, a more wholesome and complete flavor and effect can be achieved with concentrates. The delectable edibles of cannabis. We've come a long way from the old school pop brownies. Eric's parents accidentally ate on an episode of That 70s Show. I remember that episode. It was pretty funny. He was baked. Today, cannabis can be taken orally in a multitude of ways, from capsules to gummies to chocolates to candies to sports drinks, potato chips, more. Furthermore, patients who utilize RSO, that's called Rick Simpson oil, or simply cannabis oil, also consume this orally or use to create edibles of their own. Aside from the delicious nature of the method of consumption, oral cannabinoids have several health benefits. Oral cannabinoids and their recognized health benefits. When combined with lipids, fats, since cannabinoids are fat-soluble compounds, it has been found that co-administration or oral cannabinoids with lipids leads to higher levels of these compounds in the lymph, a part of the body that controls the immune system. Furthermore, oral cannabinoids have already established themselves as efficacious treatments in chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. Topical and transdermal cannabinoids. Topical and transdermal cannabinoid products come in several varieties, including oils and balms that can be applied topically in the skin and transdermal patches that disperse medication through the skin and into the bloodstream directly. This is partially helpful since the administration of cannabinoids such as CBD is poor and can be more effective when directly applied in the area of needing treatment. While the health benefits of such mechanisms of cannabinoid delivery, I lost my place. Sorry about that. They have shown to promise in the treatment of arthritis and associated inflammation and pain. So many choices. Which one are the best for you? While the ways to consume cannabis seem to be ever increasing, it is important for patients to ask themselves what they are trying to achieve to determine what products work best for them. Smoking or vaporizing cannabis has the benefit of rapid onset effect, effective for nausea and pain relief. Smoked cannabis has also shown promise in Crohn's patients. Patients looking for longer-lasting effects would benefit from oral consumptions, with the arthritic patient may benefit from consistent use of topical cannabinoids. By strategically setting one's treatment goals and exploring what is available, it is clear that there is a little something for just about everyone. All right, so I know I've talked about a lot of this stuff before, but I'm going to explain something on how I learn, and this is what this show's all about, learning and educating and a lot more, but I learn by repetition. And I know Mrs. Weedman has read articles and they all correlate with one another, but as we learn more and more articles and more research is done, stuff gets updated. So as I to learn more, hopefully you guys and gals and everybody out there in the world understand that. So hopefully it helps. Another good article.
Well, and another reason that we repeat topics is that we have listeners that may only pop in and listen to 1 or 2 episodes. And so if they don't listen to every episode, then they're just going to miss out on that information. So there's things that we do need to repeat intentionally.
I need to repeat it though for myself.
Just good information to. Yeah.
And like I said, stuff gets updated so fast.
Yeah, things change.
Yeah.
New products come out. They
new
master
research,
some technology.
100%.
So we'll just keep sharing.
And Karen.
We try.
They say cannabis is stronger these days, but exactly how much stronger is today's cannabis? The cannabis of today is quite literally not your parents' weed. And I take offense to that. Just kidding. An overwhelming amount of data shows the potency of cannabis has been steadily on the rise in the U.S. since 1990, meaning the amount of THC in what we consume today is much higher than what the flower children were smoking. In the 60s and 70s and 80s, raw cannabis flower contained an average of just 2% THC or less.
Jeez.
Oh, my gosh. For context, CBD products with less than 0.3% THC are federally legal because the amount is generally not enough to get a person high. Then between 1990 and 1995, the average concentration of THC in cannabis rose to 4%.
Ooh.
I don't know where they were getting their weed from, but from like 90 to 95, my whole cannabis experience changed from the stuff I used to get to the stuff I was getting in that area, and it was higher than 4%. I can just say. and shot up to 17% between 95 and 2017. So that's a pretty quick increase from 95 to 217. It's actually pretty significant, I guess, or maybe not significant enough, depending on who you are. As growers began harvesting new strains, promising more intense psychoactive effects, for dabs, oils, edibles, shatter, and other cannabis concentrates, the THC concentration could be slightly as high as 95%. Those crystallines, those diamonds. Now the cannabis we consume is on average over 8 times more potent than it was before in the 90s. This isn't a new story. The tobacco and alcohol industries have increased sales over time by incorporating higher and higher concentrations of alcohol. But while nicotine and alcohol are both proven to be addictive and have virtually no health benefits, did you catch that? Nicotine and alcohol, virtually no health benefits. Remember in the 40s and 30s, 40s and 50s and 60s, they used to tell women to smoke because it would help them? It's crazy. The lack of research on cannabis makes it difficult to judge whether high potency in cannabis products is dangerous. So in this article, they say, should people be worried? According to Dr. Kenneth Weinberg, Chief Medical Officer of Cannabis Doctors of New York, the problem isn't necessarily how much THC is in cannabis products. Instead, is how little CBD there is. Aha. It's all about the ratio of THC and CBD in the strain, Weinberg said. The more THC you have and the less CBD tends to be in it. Weinberg explained that CBD acts as a mitigate the psychoactive effects of THC at a cellular level in the brain. It's why people often use CBD after they get high to help bring them down. We've talked about this before, so even more research. It's great. We're seeing products in the market lately that have a 100-to-1 ratio of THC to CBD, when 20-to-1 used to be the normal. At that point, you're in danger of experiencing psychotic symptoms because you have almost no CBD to balance you out. I can't agree more with that statement. The most common psychotic effects caused by THC intake include panic attacks, memory loss, and hallucinations. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms after consuming cannabis, you may want to consider either using CBD after you take a hit or finding a product with lower THC concentrations. But while these unwanted side effects will make you temporarily miserable, they generally dissipate with about 24 hours. For teens, though, the effects of highly potent THC may be more long-term. The people we should be most worried about are children using these cannabis products with such high THC, Weinberg said. I think there's enough evidence out there suggesting THC can interfere with the development of the brain to be very concerned about that, especially when the research is telling us teens are using cannabis more and more each year. But there are benefits to having such potent products available. Yes, seasoned cannabis users will experience a better buzz after using them, but there's also anecdotal evidence suggesting they could help with serious medicinal conditions that low THC products aren't strong enough to affect. Children with severe forms of epilepsy are finding relief through high-potent cannabis products, and the same goes for cancer patients looking to curb nausea, though much more research needs to be done on the subject. It's even been suggested that high levels of THC could combat tumor cell proliferation, meaning the consumption of highly potent cannabis may be able to slow the progression of cancer. Weinberg said the decision of whether to use high-potent cannabis for medical purposes only comes down to how much THC you are comfortable taking and what alternatives are available to you. So, there have been some reports on people who have done very well on high-potent products, and they've even suggested them for cancer patients who see me, or for people who have trouble with sleep. But the doctor always recommended starting with a product with a low THC to a CBD, like a ratio 2-to-1, Weinberg said. That way you can experience some medical benefits without having to be anxious about the psychoactive effects, and build from there, and if your healthcare provider feels that the benefits outweigh the cost. So, all right, we've talked about this a lot, and it is so true, especially for you newbies out there. You experts or people, you burners, stoners, and potheads that have been, I get it. You need the higher THC to get the feeling that you want. You newbies out there, people that are just starting out, this article was for you. Like we say all the time, start low and go slow. And that's not only just with edibles. Could be with tinctures. It could be with flour. It could be with concentrates. It could be with edibles. It's just don't go to the punch out, the knockout punch. That's all I got to say. So hopefully that helps. Here was something funny. I caught this article. If cannabis strains names were correct and not utterly bizarre, your mom smokes weed. It's not even a joke anymore. It's a fact. I thought it was great. Your mom goes into the dispensary and Gen Z TikTok hops around offering well-informed advice on how to use CBD for arthritis and which strain to use to make her husband, your dad, want to have sex with her. You're welcome. Do you know what is a joke? The cannabis strain names offered to this sweet woman who shoved your enormous head from her precious, powerful temple. The thing is, friend, the strain isn't always an indicative of how the cannabis will make you feel. Sometimes a strain is named after people like Jack Herrera, the legend, or places like Kush in the Himalayas, or how they smell, lemon OG, cheese, but rarely are they named for how they will make you feel and what they'll make you do. And they should be. Here's a strain name called Alaskan Thunderfuck.
Jeez.
Do you know what that would do to you if I say, hey, Mrs. Weedman?
It hit me in the head like thunder, and then what?
You end up in Alaska?
And then just mess me up.
Right. So here, what is your mom going to feel like she's trapped in an avalanche, unable to call for help, or the Thor's mighty hammer will strike her down upon annihilation? Come on. The strain should be called, ooh, feel how soft the cat is right now? Watch out. Here comes again. Grab the Cheez-Its, as it is creative, chill sativa with a creeper tendency and it gives you the munchies. Creeper strains come on like one of Saturn's moons, slowly regurgitating your life, adding a desperate need for a snack and a blankie. You've been warned. There's another one he talks about. Green crack. I've smoked green crack. I like green crack. It's a good strain. It's fun. But here's what they say. Why do we do this, Timmy? From The Exorcist. Why do we do this, Timmy? Timmy, why you do this to me? Sure, this is a super sativa that helps with focus and creativity, similar to the effects of the stimulant, but it will not encourage you to start your own business. Get mad at your friends for not investing in a said business, or break up your marriage. It will help you get shit done and try to have sex with your platonic friend Morgan. Morgan, I know you still watch my IG stories. This is from the article. We have a friend Morgan too. That's gonna be kind of funny. It's got aphrodisiac effects, drives focus, and uplifts your mood tremendously. Save on Xanax and switch to cannabis. Just try it as a microdose before you jump in. What if I said, hey, Mrs. Weedman,
Yeah.
you want White Nightmare?
I don't think so. Sounds heavy.
So here's what they write about it. I choose to feel threatened by this one, gentle reader. Blue Dream remains one of the most popular strains and is crossbred like White Nightmare offers connoisseurs a taste of that creative spark with just a touch of anxiety. This strain should be called Get the DIY Stuff Out and Await Existential Crisis, because it will wreak havoc on your sense of corporal being. You'll do that face where it's like smile but with scared eyes, and you'll beg for the sweet release of sleep. Use it for its productivity and create the great TikTok about how well you have ADHD. And then do some serious self-care. We love that journey for you. Don't be afraid to ask your bud tender about the effects of a strain it'll have in your body. They'll tell you, we're still the boss of these kids. Don't resent that they get to sell weed without losing their parents' respect. So this was written by comedian Adrian Earhart, a stand-up comedian and writer, and has been a cannabis professional for nearly a decade. So I thought it was pretty funny. Mrs. Weedman.
Yep.
You know, we kind of hit on this a couple episodes ago about menopause.
You sound like you got quiet.
I did. I'm sorry.
Are you scared to talk about menopause?
No, not at all. Because I've been learning.
Well, it's okay. Because I'm here to talk about it.
Tell me about it, please.
I don't really understand it. And honestly, I don't even understand how doctors don't understand it more. It's been happening for as long as women have been around, right? But anyway, there is some findings that cannabis can ease your hot flashes. And here's some advice from a menopause expert. This is pretty cool because I'm at that point in my life where I might need this advice. So, if you're considering pot to escape hot flashes hell, here's guidance on the best way to do that and the science of why it might help. Lauren Stryker, MD, a renowned OB-GYN and menopause expert, is the founder and medical director of the Northwestern Medicine Center for Menopause and the Northwestern Medicine Center for Sexual Health. Her newest book, Hot Flash Hell, is all about the stages and symptoms of menopause and how to cool the heat, including her perspective on cannabis, excerpted here, which I think is pretty cool. This is a doctor, a highly accredited doctor, who is pushing or understanding that cannabis can help in a medical way. Pretty
Go
cool.
doctor.
Go doctor. So this is some notes on what she has written about. If you've heard a friend mention that she's easing hot flashes and other annoying side effects of menopause with cannabis, she's not alone. In a 2020 study, 27% of menopausal women reported that they used some form of cannabis to alleviate hot flashes. That's a lot of women.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Hot flashes, insomnia, vaginal dryness, mood swings, and brain fog. That's more than 1 in 4 women. Compare that to the mere 7% of women who take systemic estrogen to alleviate symptoms. Women are smoking pot, drinking cannabis-laced beverages, and infusing cannabis in oil and putting it not only on their avocado toast, but also on their vajayjay. All right.
No comment.
We are just covering all sorts of things right now. Right? We cover all the topics.
All of them.
Yep. So, guys, if you don't want to hear it, like, this is a good time to go
Smoke a
get
joint.
go get a snack, and us ladies are going to talk.
Smoke a joint.
So, turning to cannabis to ease menopausal symptoms isn't new either. According to historian Ethan Russ, cannabis was used as far back as the 7th century for a myriad of women's ailments. It even pops up as a treatment of menopause in a 1899 edition of the Merck Manual, a popular medical textbook. At the turn of the century, all the major pharmaceutical companies, Eli Lilly, Park Davis, which is now Pfizer, and Squibb, sold cannabis as a powder, tablet, and tincture. So what's the story? Can smoking a joint or imbibing cannabis in some other way really cool the heat and soothe our menopause symptoms? Though there are some wildly enthusiastic anecdotal reports about the effectiveness of cannabis to ease hot flashes, there have been inadequate scientific studies, meaning studies done on large groups of women over an extended period of time with a control group using fake cannabis as a comparison. In other words, when it comes to cannabinoids, the compounds found in cannabis, there aren't the kind of studies that are required for pharmaceutical agents to become FDA approved. In addition, most studies on the effects of cannabinoids include only men, and there is an obvious difference between men and women. Aside from being expensive, studies on the impact of cannabis on menopause symptoms would be difficult to conduct. The pharmacology is complex. There are well over 100 cannabinoids, and all have different physical and physiological effects. The dosage and type of cannabis are difficult to standardize and are also dramatically altered by variables, such as other medications someone might be taking. Don't get me wrong. The use of cannabinoids to relieve menopause symptoms is very promising, and based on the known properties of cannabinoids, there is good reason that they would be beneficial in alleviating many symptoms of menopause. It would just be nice to have more research as to what kind of cannabis and what dosage works best, so that I and other physicians can make informed recommendations to our patients, says Lauren Stryker, MD. Having said that, here is what is known based on the science of cannabinoids, as well as observational anecdotal data. First, an interesting fact. The human body makes its own cannabinoids. The human endocannabinoid system is a complex nerve signaling system composed of neurotransmitters that bind to cannabinoid receptors. It's responsible for regulating multiple body functions, including appetite, metabolism, pain, mood, learning, memory, sleep, stress, bone health, and cardiovascular health. Pretty much everything that keeps humans functional and balanced. And it turns out that hormones, specifically estrogen, play a critical role in the endocannabinoid system. And some experts propose that the disruption in that system when estrogen is low is responsible for menopause symptoms. And they say it's also why using cannabis can decrease hot flashes. It sounds so logical right now, doesn't it?
Very logical.
Holy cow. Like, this is so simple. Why aren't we doing this? There are 2 cannabinoids extracted from the flower of the cannabis plant that have potential roles in managing menopause symptoms: tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, and cannabidiol, CBD. And to no surprise, only the female cannabis flower contains these elements. That's weird. Cool.
The giver of life.
Nature is crazy. Whoa. THC is the psychoactive component of cannabis. That's the component that brings on the high. It mimics some aspects of the natural endocannabinoid in our bodies that help regulate body temperature, which is theoretically why THC is the key to reducing hot flashes. So you need THC for that. Yeah. CBD is extracted from hemp flowers. It contains trace amounts of THC but doesn't have psychoactive properties, so it will not get you high. Although it may not reduce hot flashes specifically, it does decrease pain and inflammation, in addition to helping you get a good night's sleep. Also, the anti-inflammatory properties of both cannabinoids may help with bone loss and cardiovascular disease. Since this hasn't been scientifically studied, what I'm going to say is based on the known pharmacology of cannabinoids and the anecdotal information from folks in this world. It does appear that cannabis can be effective in decreasing the frequency and severity of hot flashes. Again, the THC in cannabis mimics the endocannabinoids that help regulate body temperature. This effect when using cannabis is dose dependent. Large amounts of THC cause your internal temperature to drop. We know that because Mr. Weedman shivers and shakes.
Happens all the time.
Yep. While small amounts can cause your internal temperature to rise. In other words, THC can regulate your internal thermostat, but it is important to know how to get the right amount. You can smoke it, you can eat it, you can rub it on, and how you take it is also important, not only in terms of what it will do for you, but also when it comes to onset of action, meaning how quickly it hits you, and its potential side effects. So talk with your local bud tender who can help you pick the right products.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it is.
So for all of our young adult listeners out there that are way away from this, your moms might be getting it soon, or your aunts. Be patient, be kind, and just walk away.
Oh, when there's a hot flash or
yes.
a mood?
Yes.
Yeah.
You might not understand it.
You don't understand it until you're in it. And
right.
Guess what, guys? You're never going to understand it.
I don't understand it, but I'm learning how to work and learn how to help, I guess. And the best way to help is just to go far, far away.
Get out of here.
Just kidding.
Get out of here.
You know what, though? I'm glad we're reading more and more about this, though, because there's so much research out there that they need to start doing, and it just proves more and more as we read articles like this and we learn more. It's going to help more and more people out there. So all joking aside, this crazy. More than 90% of the main municipalities opt out of recreational cannabis sales. Only 10% of the towns and cities in the state are allowing adult use sales. 47 of Maine's roughly 500 towns. That's crazy.
47?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's nuts.
Nuts.
California State Fair will host cannabis competition for the first time at 2022 events. It was officially announced. So New York had their state fair they allowed people to smoke in, and no one could see inside because it was so cloudy. I wonder how this California state fair is going to be, and will they let people just like they did in New York? Because it's not in California, you can't just smoke it anywhere you want. Like
But
in New York,
California,
you can
can you actually smoke in public because of their fire risks?
yes, I don't know if you could smoke
I don't
in
know
public.
what
I don't
their,
know if it's.
smoking
I don't
laws
know.
are.
I don't think it's legal in California that you could smoke like in New York. Like in New York, you can smoke anywhere
Right.
except federal property. Okay,
California might be only on private property.
I think so. But I mean, I've been to California. I've smoked everywhere, so but I've never gotten in trouble. So, but yes. So I just wonder if they're going to let them smoke like crazy, like they did in New York, and make big clouds. So I hope see some results on that in 2022. Oklahoma activists finalized language for the two 2022 cannabis ballot initiatives. That's kind of cool. Go Oklahoma. Get that wreck there, will you? Mississippi lawmakers reached deal on medical cannabis legalization. Plan to request special session. Come on, Mississippi. Full page Washington Post ad calls for cannabis prisoners' freedom while celebs make money in the industry. I'm going to read this one because I thought it was good. Supporters of a 26-year-old man who is currently incarcerated while awaiting sentencing for a federal cannabis charge took out a full-page ad in the Washington Post on Thursday, blasting the hypocrisy of his imprisonment while celebrities like Beyonce, Jay-Z, Seth Rogen, and Willie Nelson stand to profit off the legal cannabis industry. Jonathan Wall faces up to 15 years in prison on charges that he and others conspired to traffic cannabis from California to Maryland over 2 years ago. His family says this is a flagrant miscarriage of justice that highlights the need for relief for Wall and for broader federal cannabis reform. The ad has the headline, "Who will be the last person incarcerated for cannabis in the United States?" Cannabis corporations are in Maryland and 26 other states making billions in revenue growing, manufacturing, and distributing pot. It says cannabis conglomerates wonderfully engaged in branding, licensing, product innovation, research, and development. It notes that just miles away from where Wall is being held, consumers can buy cannabis from major cannabis businesses like Curaleaf Acreage Holdings, which accounts for GOP House Speaker John Boehner among its board members. But then, you along with the likes of Jay-Z, Seth Rogen, and Willie Nelson would be in violation of the U.S. federal law and subject of incarceration. The ad says 26-year-old Jonathan Wall faces life in prison while Beyonce says that she's starting a cannabis farm. This is not the way the law is supposed to work. President Biden recently gave a speech about how 20 years in Afghanistan was too long and that other continuing involvement there was a mistake. Well, what about more than 50 years of proven failure, 50 years of gross economic waste, 50 years of caging our own citizens, 50 years of asset forfeiture abuse, 50 years of enforcement disparity and eviscerations of the constitutional rights of people of color in a country where a guy can buy an assault rifle and a fifth of whiskey. Federal prohibition of cannabis has never been about more than fear, bias, race, stigmatization, and control. This isn't the first time that the Biden administration has faced demands to provide relief for people criminalized over cannabis. Congressional lawmakers have also recently pushed President Biden to grant clemency to nearly 20,000 people in the federal prison system, including those with drug convictions. A group of more than 150 celebrities, athletes, politicians, law enforcement professionals, and academics separately signed a letter that was delivered to Biden asking him to issue a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to all the people with nonviolent federal cannabis convictions. While advocates are looking for more, the Biden administration is asking a fraction of people with drug convictions who were placed on home confinement amid the coronavirus pandemic to apply for relief. It's time for the government to admit that it made mistakes, the news ad said. So I thought it was a great article. We always fight for nonviolent cannabis criminals, those 40,000 that are in jail still, and I think that article holds strong. You have people making money, people really making a lot of money off of this, and we need to get the people in prison for cannabis crimes, nonviolent cannabis crimes, out of prison. Cannabis advocate and the Last Prisoner Project founder Steve D'Angelo to lay out policy agenda for New York states to achieve social justice and equity with cannabis regulation. Good for you, Steve D'Angelo. Make it right out there. Here's a big one. LA County DA dismissing 60,000 cannabis convictions. That's big. Still not enough, but it's still big. Do you like wine?
I like wine.
You like wine?
Yeah.
We drink some rosé on the show now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Been a hot minute, but you do like wine.
Mm-hmm. It's not my favorite, but I do enjoy it.
Does cannabis and wine mix?
Yeah, wait till you guys hear this article.
The fucking Catalina wine mixer. Do they mix like that?
I don't think
You don't
so.
remember Step Brothers, do you?
No.
It's the fucking
I do remember
Catalina
that.
wine mixer.
Yes. They jam out with the band at the end of that. Oh my God, that's a funny movie.
Boats and hoes.
Step Brother. If you have not seen Step Brothers with Will Ferrell, you really need to. It's like just silly.
That's so good.
Oh my God. All right. So I've got an article here that's pretty interesting. Cannabis, de-alcoholization, and emulsion technology transform Napa's signature beverage. After working in the wine industry for 30 years and innovation for 15, Tracy Mason was looking for a change of pace and chemistry. The wine-to-weed pipeline grabbed a hold of Mason, and she quickly learned how the wine and cannabis industries were similar, yet different. With her current venture, House of Saka, Mason is able to combine these worlds as co-founder and CEO of a de-alcoholized, cannabis-infused wine company. I'm very excited to try this, but I guess we'd have to go to California to try it.
Cali, here we come.
Yeah, right? After a certain point with any kind of industry, you've kind of been there, done that, she said. With wine, there's only so far you can go. There's certainly packaging innovation, but it is still a pretty traditional industry. And for someone like me that is hyper creative, it felt kind of limiting after a number of years. Founded in 2018, House of Saka offers 3 different cannabis-infused wines, one of which includes a live resin emulsion, which Mason says intensifies the high. Saka Spark Mimosa, which combines a sparkling Chardonnay with mimosa strain cannabis, is accompanied with orange blossom and tangerine essence to tie the flavors together. The other 2 offerings are Saka Pink and Saka White, both of which have base wines sourced from Napa Valley. Through our contracts, we have been able to get our hands on some beautiful wines. We remove the alcohol, and then, through a lot of research and development, we are able to create something that is a real wine-like experience without the negative effects of alcohol, which is what we were really trying to achieve, Mason explained. What we do is take a highly refined cannabis oil and we break it down into microscopic particles that are both highly bioavailable and self-homogenizing, she said. Think about a chain link fence. If you had a beach ball and you try to throw it at the fence, it's just going to bounce back at you, right? But if you take a bunch of marbles and throw it at the chain link fence, they're going to go through. Mason says these particles then marry themselves to the water, or in this case, wine, which I'm going to take a sip of my drink. Since these base wines have their own presence of terpenes and proteins, House of Saka had to come up with a proprietary emulsion to ensure the concoction would be stable. Due to this house emulsion and the nature of beverage-based edible cannabis, Mason says the CBD, or in the case of her Spark Blend THC, is then absorbed into your stomach lining, resulting in an onset of effects in just 5 to 15 minutes, just like a glass of wine, says Mason. Another company in the area, Sip C, also uses Napa wines for their de-alcoholized emulsions. However, instead of using a full cannabis or THC extract, Sippy C's Sip Cozy wine is infused with 40 milligrams of broad-spectrum hemp extract. Their emulsion is made with sunflower lecithin, ultrafine coconut oil, and plant-derived emulsifiers, in addition to the hemp.
Sounds wonderful.
I know. With a 12 fluid ounce pour clocking in with a potency of about 20 milligrams of CBD. The Sip Cozy drinkers experience the calming effect of CBD without the psychoactive effect of THC. While the effects differ between their products, both Sip Cozy and House of Saka say they seek to serve female cannabis users who have historically been left out in product development and marketing. In her work in the cannabis sphere, before founding House of Saka, Mason realized how this sector of consumer was neglected, and she wanted to take advantage of the existing demand. It was very clear that there was a big gap in addressing the emerging female consumer, she said. But that's the fastest growing consumer in cannabis. There was also a real gap in luxury branding. And so we felt we really could carve out a niche by creating a brand that marries those two things. Mason refers to her brand as more House of Chanel than weed this, weed that, and said their products aren't for a wake and bake type of cannabis user. The wines, even though the alcohol has been taken out, are the star, with the physical benefits playing as sidekick. Everyone has had a bad edible experience where you take one and you wait and it doesn't do anything, so you take another one and then you end up getting way too high. It's different with beverages because the onset effect comes on really quickly and it gives you an incredible bit of information on how to self-dose, says Mason. House of Saka is really the only Napa Valley cannabis beverage brand, and it's not because of Napa Valley cannabis. It's because we are using Napa Valley wines. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot, like you could go to your dispensary and you can find low dose THC and CBD drinks already, but I don't think I've seen any wine.
I have not tried. No. I've heard there were some companies talking about it, but I had not heard or seen any product yet.
So keep your eyes out.
Yeah, if you're in Napa Valley, I'd go.
Yeah, send us a picture. We want to see it.
Yeah. International news: Italian referendum to decriminalize cannabis, psilocybin, and other drug plants get 500,000 signatures. Been a lot of talk, a lot of states overseas. Psilocybin that comes from mushrooms. They're finding a lot of benefits on the microdosing of it. I think states are going to legalize this faster than cannabis had ever. I mean, you're going to see this quick. It's going to be fast. So there's already companies that are selling shares. It's crazy. So psilocybin is going to be the next big thing. Once I don't know. It's crazy. Who's going to make it faster? To the finish line. So. Crazy stuff. Well, Italy, hopefully you pass it. Here's a funny one. Smoking weed in the nude. The Jamaican resort allows it. Hedonism 2, a renowned clothing optional resort in Nigeria, Jamaica, now features an on-site medical cannabis dispensary. The retail front, dubbed Hito Weedo, specializes in the high-end craft cannabis and offers a variety of products, including joints, flowers, and oils. All products come from the cannabis that was locally cultivated by licensed farmers in full compliance with Jamaica's cannabis laws, promoting well-being and weed. The resort's mission is to promote the well-being of its clients by providing expert, personalized service in a safe and comfortable environment. While a dispensary is open to Hedonism 2 guests as well as outside visitors, a medical card is required to make purchases. But here's the interesting tidbit. Guests don't need to have a medical cannabis card prior to checking in. Instead, they can schedule an appointment with the on-site doctor for the evaluation. Medical cannabis cards from other countries are also accepted.
Oh, my gosh.
That's
nuts.
The U.S. has set the bar on what the cannabis industry can bring to a destination and how it can successfully operate in a regulated environment. Hedonism 2 Managing Director Kevin Levy said, Hito Weedo is looking forward to supplying this level of service to Jamaica. While the medicinal dispensary is not owned and operated by Hedonism 2, the adults-only resort is happy to be home to the shop and eager to provide its guests access and proximity to products in a standardized and supervised manner, Levy added. A Hito Weedo therapeutic spa is also in the works and will debut in the coming months, offering cannabis-based treatments. So hedonism is the nude resort, right?
I don't think it's that. I think it's more just like an adult. Like
but you could walk around nude though.
Like a Club Med, maybe a little more like party atmosphere.
Yeah, but you can walk around nude and smoke weed.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Well, maybe at that particular one.
At hedonism too. But that's cool. They're gonna have
They have their own weed shop there.
Yeah,
little
and
dispensary.
they take out of state other countries' med cards, so you don't even have to see the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You just walk in and be like, "Bam, give me some of that Jamaican mojo, yo." You know,
It's funny.
hell yeah. We might have to take a trip to Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Zimbabwe issues 57 cannabis cultivation licenses. The Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, ZIDA, has issued 57 cannabis cultivation licenses, according to the Bloomberg report. We have licensed 57 investors for medicinal cannabis production from Germany, Switzerland, Canada, and some local players. The agency told the news outlet companies have been licensed for cultivation and processing of medical cannabis, and they own 100% of their investment. Zeta indicated that cannabis production has launched at some of the licensed farms already, according to Bloomberg. The agency is working with the Ministry of Lands and Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe to ensure quality in seed imports. Zimbabwe legalized medical cannabis in 2018, and the Treasury forecast that the cannabis sales will reach $1.25 billion this year. Damn. Good for you, Zimbabwe. My only disappointment in that is that you let other countries take the business where they should have just invested and gave the people of the country the money. But that's just my own opinion. All right. Like we said earlier, as we find more information and as we learn, and we get hit up and asked all the time about edibles. So, Mrs. Weeman, you're the edible queen.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know a few things.
Two tree.
A few, 2, 3.
Two tree.
Yeah. I got some stuff. So I've got an article about edibles surging in popularity and why. Why is that happening, right? And we talk about them quite a bit on the show, and we have baked edibles here in our home. We've had other friends bake goods. We've bought store-bought edibles. I mean, they're all just so different. They're all so different. We just talked about a story tonight with
A couple
eating.
things about edibles
Yeah.
today.
So
But here's the thing: I've got hit up with from a listener in the UK a couple times, and just asking about edibles. He had never tried them, and he finally did. And we had put some stuff out there about edibles, and it made me compelled to always work with people at edibles because it was his first time. And I said, "Dude, start low and go slow." And he goes, "I took the whole thing." I said, "Oh boy."
oh, geez. I think I don't know about everybody, but
And I think he
a
said
majority of people.
I think
do
he said
that.
it was a 25 milligram, which for somebody new, he was a smoker. I mean, he smoked, but because he sent me pics all the
But
time.
it's a
of him
different
smoking.
high.
It is. So I said, well, if you need to talk to somebody, I'm here. So just let me know how you're feeling. And I think he DM'd me the next day going, "Oh, it was good. I was really, really baked, really, really, really high." And I was like, "Well, cool, man. Then you were good."
Yeah.
So, but we try to make sure that edibles, because they are new to a lot of people, taking that high dose can fuck somebody up.
Well, and a lot of the companies manufacturing them that you can get at your dispensaries are recognizing that this is just such a common mistake that people don't understand the amount of time that it takes for an edible to kick in. Don't eat more, right? Like a dose is a dose, and just people overeat.
You can always go
because
forward.
everything tastes good.
You
right?
can always go forward. You
can't
go
back. So now companies are starting to make low dose edibles, 5 milligram, 10 milligram, which is just fantastic. So
2.5 milligrams too.
2.5s even, which is like a microdose or a beginner level dose. So why are edibles surging in popularity? Well, cannabis edibles are food products that have been used for both recreational and medicinal purposes. They have attracted a wide range of people from millennials to senior citizens. Cannabis edibles have skyrocketed in the market across the globe. There has been an unprecedented surge in demand for edibles due to legalization of adult use cannabis in many states and markets. Edibles are found to be safer and more effective than smoking or inhaling. What are they? Cannabis edibles are just weed infused into different food products like snack bars, chocolate, brownies, baked goods, seasoning packets, cooking oil, breath strips, mints, beverages, and other items. There will be varying concentrations of cannabis in each product to meet the needs of different customers. The most popular option for consuming cannabis is taking it in an edible form. Many people perceive it as less messy and a better option than vaped or smoked cannabis. So, as you know, there's a lot of classifications of cannabis. It is a resinous flower, part of the cannabis plant. And it's distinguished based on its morphology of the plant into a sativa, hybrid, or indica plant. All of them smell different, have different flavors, and are grown in different geographic regions. For example, Kush is a popular cannabis strain that originated in the Hindu Kush mountain range. Over time, it obtained recognition as the go-to high-quality cannabis in the United States.
Give me that Kush. I love
Kush. I like all things Kush. Here are some reasons why edibles are surging in popularity. They're super adaptable. They can be absorbed into the body in different ways. It is the flexibility that has led to a surge in the variety of cannabis products. Edibles are available as sweet or savory flavors in baked goods, candies, chocolates, and oh my God, the list just goes on and on anymore. There's chips, there's drinks.
The salad dressing you made is amazing.
Yeah. Cannabis in edible form is a discreet way to partake. There's another reason why it's booming. The effects of edibles are more gradual than other types of dosing methods and provide the advantage of being discreet. All you have to do is unwrap and pop it into your mouth while you're out and about. Most people will not identify that you're getting high because you're eating. The next reason is be aware of what you're getting into. So I don't know what this has to do with it being popular, but all cannabis edibles like gummies, chocolate bars, biscuits, etc. should be labeled with their THC content. It is a legal requirement. Now that edibles are packaged with THC content, information is also helpful because consumers know what they're getting into, and that adds to the appeal. It's just so easy to use them because you know exactly what you're getting. So they're not talking about your edible that your friend gave you a cookie that they made at home. There's no telling what's in there and how strong it is. They're talking about store brand, dispensary brand products. Everything is labeled. So if it's a 100 milligram bar, it should have little lines on the bar that tell you a dose of 10 milligrams or 5 milligrams. And then you can take it from there. But at least you have a pretty good idea of what you're getting into. The next reason is the delicious taste of cannabis edibles. After legalization, cannabis edibles have been surging in popularity, and businesses are perfecting their product taste. It is a piece of happy news, and at the same time, it gives way to worry, as some might get carried away and eat more than required. But that's always been the case. But I will tell you, I mean, there are some products that still taste bad. They have so much science and technology behind them, and they just still taste like crap. They taste like extractions that are weird and chemicals. But there's some really, really good products out there too.
There's some damn good products out there.
Experienced users of cannabis are liking it, like the mature consumers who are moving away from inhalable products and going with edibles instead. Users who are familiar with the effects of smoking THC flower and taking tinctures have begun to use edibles. During the pandemic, consumers built cannabis edibles into their lifestyle, and it's presumed that will stay with them as they resume their social lives and begin to travel again. They're easy to share. Another plus for edibles, they're very easy to share. When you consume cannabis in vaping form, you have to pass a joint or share from the same pipe. If you use cannabis in edible form, it's easy to share by taking a piece and engaging in a tasty treat. People are worried about COVID, especially now, and germ sharing always. So socially, edibles have become the way to go. Surging popularity of cannabis edibles prompts edible manufacturers to turn their attention towards research and development and new product lines. Edibles outperform the total cannabis market, which increased by a hefty 54% last year. I think everybody was high last year. So anyway, it looks like eating your weed is here to stay. So if you haven't tried it, give it a try. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I love about edibles is when you have them on you and you share them with people.
Oh my God, people go nuts.
And you look at their faces, like, there's weed in that. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's weed in that. How much should I take? And I just say,
a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you ask them an hour later, like, you ate just a little. They're like, no, I ate the whole thing. Like, oh, I don't even know. It happens all the time.
They're all in.
And it's
Fuck
because it does taste good.
Yeah, it does.
You want to eat more of it.
But it's so good when you see me with the red little cooler, and I'm walking around and handing edible. Would you like an edible? There's weed in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, would you like some?
Well, you don't just go out walking up and down the street with a little red cooler.
I wish
You've
I
been
could.
at
at
like family parties and things like
events
that.
and stuff like that. The
If
carnival.
you have your cooler with a couple drinks in there, and then you've got a little bag of
I do.
homemades.
I do.
Funny.
Cannabis companies checking out businesses' benefits of new social media platforms, and this was because of what's been going on. Instagram, people getting their accounts deactivated and not even able to get back into them anymore. So because of certain hashtags you put on or certain words you use and how many times you're posting, if you're, I don't even care if you're putting out for resale on your shit anymore. That just, I don't even think they care about that. So I don't know. So the companies though are looking for ways to reach and. So the cannabis industry is in the early stages of figuring out how to talk, joke, or maybe even dance its way to success on social media apps, Clubhouse and TikTok. Entrepreneurs in the cannabis space have identified Clubhouse as a platform to network and promote themselves, while more established brands highlight their internal experts on host panel-like discussions on social networking apps that use voice conferencing. Clubhouse reached 10 million weekly active users in May after expanding access to include Android users. The app initially launched exclusively on iOS users in March 2020. So high-profile names and platforms, comedian Tiffany Haddish and Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. And the site is also popular with big names in cannabis such as Gary V. Vaynerchuk, a co-founder of a Los Angeles-based Green Street agency, and cannabis consultant Dr. Dina Browner. Users can drop in, hear them, and others chat about topics to launch conversations of their own. TikTok, in the meanwhile, is almost like the Wild Wild West, said John Shute, CEO and co-founder of Denver-based cannabis marketing agency Puff Creative. Companies use the video sharing app to raise brand awareness and drive sales, but must navigate ever-changing algorithms and risk the account suspension. People like to see personality and creativity, and these platforms allow you to combine both, but in their own respective ways, Shute said. So there's more to it, but yeah, so more and more companies are going to look the way to network by using different social media platforms to try to get all different age groups on to look at their stuff. So I don't know. So they're going to be using more influencers. So yeah, they're going to market their way. It's corporate cannabis. What do you want me to say? You won't believe some of these former athletes played stoned. And I mentioned on the last episode about the athletes using cannabis. So let's see. Who are some of the athletes? Matt Barnes, NBA Sacramento Kings. By launching a podcast with Steven Jackson called All the Smoke, it's not hard to tell that Mr. Barnes knows his way through a bag of California's finest. He's even gone on recording admitting that some of his best performances happened while he was medicated. Given his fiery on-the-court personality, the casual NBA fan likely wouldn't peg Barnes as a stoner. The fact is that he's actually been burning since he was age 14. His long-lasting relationship with weed could be what led him to fighting for social equity with the cannabis industry in his current role as senior advisor to Ease minority-focused cannabis business incubator. Percy Harvin, NFL Seattle Seahawks. Given the high contact nature of professional football, it's pretty easy to imagine that the league's best unwinding after a long day with a thick joint twisted to perfection. Although that's the case for a lot of the league, former Seahawks wide receiver Percy Harvin actually cited a different reason for his habitual blazing throughout his career. He recently claimed that smoking cannabis before games actually helped quell his anxiety. His anxiety reached an apex upon being traded from the Minnesota Vikings to the Seattle Seahawks back in 2013. There's not a game I played that I wasn't high, he said. It's not surprising given the fact that many users claim it helps them calm their nerves. Sean Smith, NFL, Kansas City Chiefs. Unlike Percy Harvin, Sean Smith, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, maintained his pregame ritual of smoking 2 blunts before each game because it helped him focus. Smith, 2 blunts. Oh, man. Smith was such an adherent believer in the bud that he claims it made him feel unstoppable on the field. In an interview with Bleacher Report, he said, "It's like I'm in the zone. I feel like no one can stop me out there. Mellowed me out, got me going, and it's the best thing for me." Later on in an interview, he attributed weed for helping him manage his pain before delivering a bombshell. He estimated up to 80% of players in the league use cannabis along with other teams and coaching personnel. Considering that, it's no wonder attitudes around pot are changing so rapidly. What used to be known as the No Fun League. Elijah Dukes, MLB Washington Nationals. Since MLB is historically the most forgiving of the three major sport leagues when it comes to weed, it's only natural for its players to take advantage of the fact from time to time. Former outfielder for the Washington Nats admitted to smoking pot before games during a short-lived 3-year big league career. Posting a rather pedestrian career batting average of .242, it's hard to decipher what type of impact his usage had on the field and performance. Nonetheless, his time in the bigs came to an abrupt, unceremonious end preceding the start of the 2010 NBL season. Unfortunately, since his retirement, he made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Some of those headlines include domestic problems resulting in legal consequences. So, there's some athletes for you using cannabis. Man. Mrs. Weed Man?
Mr. Weed Man?
Got anything else to say?
No.
Nothing?
No.
No?
I think we had a good show tonight.
I think it was awesome. Good weed, good time, good conversation, lots of fun.
We'll be back.
Yes, we will. Hey, everybody. Be well out there. Peace be with you all around the world. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Weedman420 Chronicles and Weedman420 Pod on Twitter. Send us an email. Weedman420chronicles@gmail.com. Thank you all again. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.